As Europe seeks to exit fossil fuels, a relatively unproven alternative is forming the backbone of its clean energy plans, but failing to convince investors. Hundreds of hydrogen projects have been floated by governments in the past years, yet only 7% of those have the financing to start construction, according to data compiled by Bloomberg New Energy Finance, that highlights the prevailing skepticism over the ability to produce large amounts economically, in contrast with the situation in the U.S., where generous subsidies under the Inflation Reduction Act are luring investments for renewables, including hydrogen. The gas is made by splitting water with electricity and can be burned to create energy without releasing carbon dioxide. It has the potential to use existing gas networks to bring fuel to heat homes, a big advantage for governments whose finances are stretched after years of crisis firefighting, while complementing the intermittency of renewables. The hydrogen sector is now getting a lot of hype, said Aditya Basham, a hydrogen analyst at Bloomberg NEF. There's a lot of project activity in terms of announcements, and very little is actually being built. Energy companies say there's not nearly enough infrastructure in place to use hydrogen as a fuel for power plants or transport it to end users, making it complicated to plan large-scale investments. Even the hundreds of projects that have been proposed only have the capacity to provide about 3.5% of the European Union's projected energy needs by 2030. Governments are steering their economies out of the worst energy crisis in decades with policies that guarantee domestic supply and limit damage to the environment. Many are counting on hydrogen to replace fossil fuels, where either renewables, such as wind and solar, are unable to, because certain industrial processes can't easily be electrified. Hydrogen's main advantage is that it's a way to store excess power produced by wind farms at sea and solar parks in distant deserts for future use. It can also be made using low carbon technologies, boosting its attractiveness for governments that are trying to exit coal. UK Energy Secretary Grant Shapps, for instance, aims to produce enough hydrogen by 2030 to power London for a year. But companies in Europe's energy sector say an expansion at such a fast pace requires greater regulatory clarity as well as financing from governments. The legislative details aren't there yet, according to Marco Alvera, Chief Executive Officer of Tree Energy Solutions, a Belgian company that builds large-scale hydrogen projects. He says officials should support manufacturing of electrolyzers, expensive machines that split molecules to produce hydrogen, and create special contracts that incentivize the use of renewables, empowering them. And investing measures are already underway, because it says in something, they said something that needs. The cases will make a hydrogen bank, because of the cases, or 10 cents that happens that will be to a fuel. European Union regulations for production won't come into full force until 2028. Another issue is the technology's early research stage. Even German utility and Bregat Grage and German control and ABW Energetic of Baden-Württemberg, which has the country's most advanced plans on to switch plants that run them on hydrogen, still has doubts about the outlook. There's a lot to be learned, and it will take a while before we can really talk about economics here. NBW Chief Financial Officer Thomas Custer said on a recent call to analysts, hurdles emerge even before hydrogen molecules reach the network. Hydrogen is the lightest and smallest element, and in its liquid form can be explosive when exposed to air. That makes it difficult to transport and requires building appropriate infrastructure. Some gas grids can be used to transport hydrogen, though existing ones are often too leaky. While NBW said it will be able to run some of its gas in plants with 75% hydrogen. Kuster added that the current grid in Germany can only transport 20%. And the EU's plan to both produce and import 10 million tons of hydrogen by 2030 seems so far to be a distant hope. The political wrangling is stalling progress on a multi-billion-euro pipeline the policymakers hope will eventually pump fuel from Barcelona to Marseille and Berlin, converting liquefied natural gas terminals such as those newly built in Germany to allow imports by ship is likely to be costly. But challenges in producing but obtaining the fuel form only a part of energy companies' concerns. What's more worrying to them is who will eventually buy it. There's no point producing huge volumes of hydrogen if you don't have off-takers who are ready to actually use that hydrogen, said Brett Ryan, head of policy analysis at Trade Association Hydrogen UK.